If you're in your 40s or 50s and suddenly feel like you're forgetting words, gaining weight around your middle section, losing strength, and feeling exhausted despite doing everything right, you're not imagining it. And contrary to what many women have been told, this is not simply aging. As a physician, one of the biggest myths I hear is that menopause means inevitable decline, that brain fog, osteoporosis, muscle loss, and metabolic dysfunction are just part of getting older. They're not. Today, I'm going to show you what's actually happening inside your body during menopause, why muscles may be the most important organ for healthy aging, and what you can do right now to protect your brain, your bones, your metabolism, and have a great quality of life. I'm Dr. Marino, and I spend a lot of times talking with women who feel frustrated because they've been told their symptoms are normal. While menopause is normal, suffering unnecessarily is not. The goal isn't simply to survive menopause, the goal is to emerge stronger, healthier, and more resilient than before. So let's talk about that. For decades, women have been told a very dangerous message. And I'm sure you've heard it before. If you mention brain fog, you mention joint pain, you mention weight gain, you mention poor sleep, you mention feeling like a completely different person, and the response is often, well, that's menopause. Almost as if there's nothing you can do about it, and almost as if decline is inevitable. The problem isn't that menopause causes real changes in the body. The problem is the assumption that those changes automatically lead to decades of poor health. Menopause have been framed as a cliff, like a point where women simply start breaking down. But menopause isn't a disease, it is a biological transition. And while hormone levels change drastically and dramatically, how you respond to that transition has a tremendous impact on how you'll feel for the next 30, 40, or even 50 years. When women accept decline as their destiny, they stop asking questions. They stop looking for solution. They stop demanding better care. And perhaps most importantly, they miss the opportunity to protect the very systems that determine long term health and independence: your brain, your bones, and your muscle. These three systems are deeply interconnected, and menopause affects every one of them. Understanding that connection may completely change the way you think about aging. What really is happening in your body? To understand why menopause feels so different, we have to understand estrogen. Most people think that estrogen is only involved in reproduction, but estrogen receptors exist throughout the body. They're found in the brain, they're found in bone tissues, they're found in muscles, they're found in blood vessels, they're found in the cardiovascular system. Estrogen act like a master regulator that influences hundreds of biological processes. So when estrogen declines, your body doesn't simply lose fertility. It undergoes a significant physiological transition. I want to start with the brain. If you've ever walked into a room and forgot why you were there, if you've struggled to find your words during conversation, if you felt less focused, less sharp, or just mentally exhausted, you're not imagining it. Researchers often refer to this as a menopausal brain fog. And studies suggest that up to two-thirds of women experience some sort of cognitive symptoms during the menopausal transition. Estrogen helps regulate neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine, which influence mood, motivation, concentration, and memory. As estrogen level decline, as estrogen levels decline, the brain has to adapt. Brain imaging studies have actually shown measurable changes in regions responsible for memory and cognition during menopause. Now, the good news is, for most women, this is not a permanent brain damage, it's a transition. But poor sleep, chronic stress, insulin resistance, inactivity, and inflammation can make these symptoms significantly worse. And that's why lifestyle becomes so important during this stage of life. Talking about your bones, most people think bones are just static structures. They're not. Bone is living tissue. Your skeleton is constantly breaking down old bone and building new ones. Estrogen plays a critical role in maintaining that balance. So, when estrogen declines, bone breakdown begins to outpace bone formation. And as a result, women can lose bone density rapidly during the menopausal transition. In fact, some of the fastest bone loss occurs during late perimenopause in the first several years after menopause. And this is why osteoporosis becomes a significant concern. Around the world, approximately 1 in 3 women over the age of 50 will experience an osteoporotic fracture. And fractures, they're not simply broken bones. A hip fracture can dramatically impact mobility, independence, and quality of life. So, the decisions that you make in your 40s and your 50s will directly influence your fracture risk decades later. Now, I want to discuss one of the most overlooked tissues, and that is your muscle. It is also the most overlooked aspect of healthy aging. Most women worry about the fat they gain during menopause, but the most important issue may be the muscle that they're losing. Beginning in your 30s, we're naturally losing muscle mass over time. And during the menopausal transition, that process can accelerate. So, as your estrogen declines, maintaining lean muscle becomes more difficult. Many women will notice that they become weaker, they recover more slowly, their metabolism seems to slow down, and they gain more fat around the abdomen. This matters because muscle isn't just about appearance. Muscle is a metabolic tissue. So it helps regulate your blood sugar, it improves your insulin sensitivity, it supports joint health, it improves balance, it reduces fall risk, and it helps maintain independence as we age. In many ways, muscle acts as a protective organ for long-term health. And this will bring us to the most important part of this entire video. When women think of menopause, they often think that they need separate solutions for their brain, their bones, and their metabolism. But what if one intervention can help all three? And that intervention, and that is the real secret to healthy aging, is building and preserving muscles. This is where the conversation about longevity has changed dramatically over the last decade because scientists are now recognizing muscle as one of the strongest predictors of healthy aging. Not your weight, not your BMI, and not even the body fat percentage, your muscle. The more healthy muscle you maintain, the better your body can regulate glucose. The better glucose regulation means improved insulin sensitivity. Improved insulin sensitivity will support your metabolic health and may also support your cognitive health. Muscles also play a major role in preventing frailty. This is one of the biggest predictors of disability and loss of independence later in life. And here's where everything comes together. How do you build stronger bones? You give your bones a reason to become stronger. When muscle contract during resistance training, they pull on bones. That mechanical stress tells the body to prevent bone tissue breakdown and preserve bone tissue. So the same activity that helps preserve muscle also help protect bone density. At the same time, exercise increases blood flow to the brain, it improves sleep quality, it reduces inflammation, and it supports cognitive function. And suddenly we're realizing something very important. Brain health, bone health, metabolic health, muscle health, not separate conversations. They're part of the same system. And muscles may be the central piece connecting them all. So, what about hormone therapy? I know that this is the point where many women will ask me about hormone replacement therapy, and it is an important question because hormone therapy can be incredibly valuable tool for the right patient. Research suggests that appropriately prescribed estrogen therapy may help improve menopausal symptoms, preserve bone density, and potentially provide benefits for brain health when initiated during the appropriate therapeutic window. But I have to say that hormone therapy is not right for everyone, and that's why your personal medical history matters. Your family history matters, and your risk factors matter. That is why individual care is so important. And what I want women to understand is that this isn't a either or conversation. It's not a hormone versus lifestyle. The most successful long-term approach usually combines multiple strategies. So you want to do the nutrition right, exercise, sleep, stress management, and when appropriate, hormone therapy. Because the goal is not simply symptom relief, the goal is optimizing long term health and quality of life. So, what can you start doing today? Let's keep it practical. Step one, prioritize protein. If you've listened to any of my videos or talk before, you know that I talk about protein and prioritizing protein. Protein is the raw material required to build and maintain muscles. And as we age, our body becomes less efficient at stimulating muscle growth from protein intake. This means that many women actually need more protein than they realize. So instead of treating protein like a side dish, make it the foundation of each meal. Aim to include a meaningful source of protein at breakfast, at lunch, at dinner, because this simple change will help support muscle maintenance, blood sugar regulation, and satiety. Step two, strength training constantly. If there is one habit that I wish every woman would adopt during menopause, that is resistance training. And I'm not saying that I need you to become a bodybuilder or that you need to spend hours in the gym. You simply need to challenge your muscles consistently. Whether you use dumbbells, resistant bands, machines, body weight exercise, the goal is progressive overload. So gradually asking your muscle to do a little bit more over time. Even 2 to 3 full body strength training sessions each week can have profound benefits for your muscles, for your bones, for your metabolism, and for your brain. And you also heard me talk about this a lot. Step three, protect your sleep. Many women underestimate the importance of sleep during menopause. Poor sleep will worsen brain fog. It worsens insulin resistance. It increases hunger hormones. It impairs recovery and it makes exercise harder. It also contributes to weight gain. So if sleep is suffering, address it. Sleep is not a luxury, it is a biological requirement for healthy aging. Step four, stay active daily. Exercise doesn't begin and end in the gym. Walk more, take the stairs, carry your groceries, get up from the floor, move your body throughout the day because the goal is not simply exercise, the goal is maintaining a physically capable and resilient body, a body that allows you to live fully for decades. If you've experienced brain fog, unexplained weight gain, loss of strength, poor sleep, or were told that your symptoms were just part of getting older, tell me in the comments below. I read every comment, and your stories may help another woman realize that she's not alone. And if you're committed to thriving through menopause instead of simply surviving it, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell because every other week I share evidence-based strategies to help women optimize their hormones, metabolism, and long-term health. For far too long, the story about menopause has been one of loss and decline, but that story isn't complete. Menopause is not the end of your health journey, and in many ways, I want us to consider it as the beginning of a new chapter. The women who thrive during this transition are not necessarily the women with the best genetics. They're the women who understand what's happening in their bodies and take action early. Protect your muscle, support your bones, invest in your brain, because the choices you make in your 40s and 50s will shape how you live in your 60s, 70s, and beyond. You're not powerless, you're not broken, and you're certainly not destined for decline. You have the ability to build strength, resilience, and vitality for decades to come. I'm Dr. Marino. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.